Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Sunday Speaks. Now, actually, in Pride Month instead of a day before. I, as always, am Cheyenne Severin, and this is Cisco Sanchez. So, hi there. Thank you for coming on today.
All right, thanks for asking me.
Of course. So, I know you wanted to talk a little bit about growing up in Paterson. So, where do you want to start? Just anything of note?
Well, nah, listen, there's a lot that I can do. I mean, when it comes to Paterson, I'm I'm born and raised in the streets of Paterson, in the city of Paterson. The hospital that I was born in is no longer there. It was on Market Street in Paterson. So I am a diehard Patterstonian. And and to be honest with you, growing up in the streets of Paterson was um it was a kid's dream back then. You know, my dad played softball, man, so I was always in the park. My family, I come from a Puerto Rican family, and we partied every weekend. Hard working family. Like they worked, I remember like they worked every day, but Friday and Saturday was party time. You know, and I would look at that and like, wow, when am I gonna be able to be a part of that? But as a kid, my family did everything. We was in the beaches every weekend, bowling, the parks, vacations. I came from a very good family. Hard, like I said, a hard working family. Um, and yeah, Patterson was a whole different place back then. You know, we were able to hang out in the playgrounds. Like whenever school was out during school break, I mean, I was in the playgrounds playing basketball, baseball. We used to put groups together, and like our block would play against that block. Kids were kids back then. Yeah, by the time the sun started coming down, you already knew you had to be home. If not, you get checked. You know, it was just good. And you know, and our parents were strict. My parents were strict. You know what I mean? They made sure that I was home before dark. And if not, you know, you got a good spanking. You know what I mean? If you went against the grain. Um, so if I was to look back at my life and follow direction back then, um, my life probably would have turned out a whole lot better. You know, but you know, life takes its course, man, and I had to change my ways. You know, I decided to change my ways. I didn't want it the direction that my parents were sending me. You know, I wanted to go on in my own direction. You know, uh, alcohol was a big part of the family. Now looking back at it, I believe all of them were alcoholics. Um, my aunts and uncles and all that, my grandmother, my grandparents. Like my grandmother would give me shots of wine back then
Mm-hmm.
to sleep. If anybody grew up in my time, during my time, I mean, listen, I just celebrated 62 years um last week. May 25th. And if you grew up in the 60s and 70s, it wasn't a problem for your grandmother to give you a little shot of Wild Irish Rose or Thunderbird to put you to sleep. You know, and looking back at it, my uncles, you know, they didn't have a problem giving me a little taste of beer. And I remember they never got me drunk. It wasn't like they would get me drunk at a young age. No, you know, they just here, you know, and they'll give me a little taste of a beer here and there, but there was it wasn't like they were trying to hurt me in any way. You know, they were just, I was always curious, you know, and watching how they were having fun. I wanted to be a part of it. So by them asking me to have a little sip of the beer, I was what, you know, excited. And grandma giving me a little shot of her wine. I thought it was like juice. We're talking like grape flavor stuff. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was. I grew up in a good life. I had a good life. Um, Unfortunately, the disease of addiction, you know, shows up without your permission. And and I remember, man, my family had a good. My dad, especially, had a good, healthy fear in my life. And I remember I respected everything and anything he said. And when it came to like marijuana, which was, the more obvious stuff that was around. I mean, there was a lot of other drugs going on, but as a kid, it was easy to see somebody smoking a joint somewhere. And my parents telling me, dude, that's bad. That's drugs. That's a bad drug. You don't want to do that. And just like they told me to stay away from the fire. But as a kid, what do? You still try to get.
Oh, Cisco, you're muted.
So no, you got to feel the heat yourself. You know what I mean? Because curiosity, you know what I mean? But when it came to the drugs, it was.
Oh.
And I remember that one of my best friends, older brother, right, invited us, and he didn't have to twist my arm, because once my buddy said, yeah, let's try it, I was all in. He was my best friend. And I think that's when that healthy fear that my family has set on me was lifted. Like I no longer was, I no longer respected what they were telling me to do, because after smoking that joint, I laughed my butt off. I remember, like, we couldn't stop laughing. We had smoked the joint on a rooftop, and I couldn't get off the roof because I was laughing so hard. And it was then that I think I looked back and said, they lied to me. Mm-hmm. Parents lied to me. This isn't that bad. And that's when the hold, that healthy hold they had on me, I think that's when it was gone. That's when it was lifted. And that's when I took my will back. I'm like, they lied to me. And that's where the disease, I believe, took off. It was then that, all of a sudden, I was hanging out in the parks playing sports. Now I'm hanging out in the alleys smoking a joint. Mm-hmm. So when now that life has done a complete 720 and weed is now legal, people ask me all the time, Cisco, how do you feel about weed? One of the happiest days of my life was when I smoked my first joint. But was that a gateway to where I'm at today? Or not today, where I ended up? Yeah. It was then when the fear was lifted and I took my will back, or I took my will, not took it back because it was never in my control. It was in my parents' control. And it was then that I took my will and I decided to experiment on my own. And the floodgates were open. So was weed a gateway? Yeah, because it didn't happen when it came to the alcohol, because the alcohol was more accepted at the time, was more sociable. Everybody was doing it in my family. The only thing they wasn't doing, or if they were, I didn't see them doing it, was smoking a joint or doing all the other drugs. So when I smoked that joint, yeah, I think that's when it happened. You see, because I'm a recovering addict. And March 23rd, I just celebrated 23 years of sobriety, thanks to the people that I have in my life today. But I can't say that for a lot of people in Paterson. Paterson is a struggling city, man. And I thank God that the community has seen that and made an effort to have programs and places that they didn't have for me when I first came around available now. You don't have to use. You don't have to experiment. You don't have to do what I did. I paid the price. I paid a big price. I can honestly say that I was incarcerated in my own city because of it. I didn't know what was going on outside my city, outside the block. I didn't want to miss out. So I found myself a lot of days homeless, like living in the streets, because I didn't want to miss out what was going to happen on the block. The disease had such a big hold on me, and it does in the whole in Paterson as a whole. Like, I like the idea that I'm a part of a group called Alumni in Recovery, and that group allows me and my peers and the people that are in recovery with me to go into schools today and try to bring this message to the kids that haven't picked up yet. Because going back to when the fear was lifted and I took my will, like, I took my will in all areas. It wasn't just going and doing what I wanted to do when it came to the drug. Like, I got a girl pregnant at 16. I smoked my first joint when I was 15 and got a girl pregnant by the time I was 16. That was part of, my parents told me to be careful in that area too. Like, they told me what to be careful for. But like I said, that one joint caused me to not respect my family enough to be careful in areas that they were already warning me. So now here I am, 16. At 17 years old, I had a baby, and school was out of the question now. I was a pretty good athlete in school and in the city of Paterson. I played baseball, a very good baseball player. And I'm not to say that I would have been a pro or anything like that, but that life was amazing. Being in the park with your family and the friends cheering you on, and it was a whole. And once I smoked that joint, all that went out the window. I needed to hang out with those that were still smoking, and those guys that were smoking were making babies, and we were parents at 16, 17 years old. So I love the idea that I'm a part of this group, Alumni in Recovery, and we can go to these schools and try to talk to these kids, because it's not all just about the drug. Once you choose to take your will, once you choose to not continue the direction that your family or the people in your life are gearing you to, you're stuck with your own devices and trying to be an adult at 17 years old. Come on, it was like wearing a shield of honor, saying that I had a kid at 17, but at the end of the day, I didn't even know what I was doing. I was a kid myself, trying to work 40 hours a week and pay for rent. I did that a lot of times, man. I tried my best to be the best father I could. But then, remember, I'm a kid, so I still want to smoke a joint. I still want to hang out with the boys. I still want to go play baseball and basketball on the playground. Meanwhile, my son's mother is home with the baby, and I got her hostage with a mistake that I made, because she don't have that luxury. As I got older, I had to make a big amends to that woman. She was, I know what it's like now, to be a single parent. I'm a single dad now. I mean, my son's mother is in his life. I have a 44-year-old son, and I got a 7-year-old son. Mm-hmm. And thank God that I went through what I went through, because my 7-year-old is reaping the benefits of, my scars, the scars that I wear, because of the choices that I made when I was 15. Mm-hmm. But thanks to what I've been through, I believe I'm a better dad today. I'm a good dad today. I'm an example. I'm a power of example for him. He don't have to worry about where I'm going to be, because I'm going to be right there for him, because I made those choices today. I do things different today. I participate in my recovery today. I stay around a lot of positive people. When we were kids, my parents used to tell me all the time, tell me who you hanging out with and I'll tell you who you are. Ooh, I used to be like, yo, why you messing with my boy?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, why you messing with him? He didn't do nothing to you. But, the truth lies that, he was going down a different path, and he was taking me with him. The fast life. And and let's not forget, man, that the disease of addiction is just not the drugs. It manifests itself in a lot of areas. The lifestyle. The lifestyle, man. How many times did I go and buy a pair of sneakers with my last dollar? And rent had to be paid, or gas and electric had to be paid, because like I told you, I was 17 years old. That's when you're going to work and you're buying sneakers and not realizing that your primary purpose is to feed your family.
Yep.
But you're a kid. You're a kid. You're an adult in a kid's body and in a kid's mind. And growing up is not that easy. And it doesn't come, you can't figure it out by yourself. You really need a lot of help, or you're gonna hurt yourself or hurt the people around you. I thank God for Paterson every day. I left a couple of times through the geographical change. I didn't realize I was taking me with me. So I was taking the problem with me everywhere I went. Didn't know I was the problem. It wasn't until I decided to take a chance and listen to other people. And listen, in my process, I ended up, my family was always very religious. And, church was a big thing in our lives. But I served a punishing God back then. God's going to punish you. So you grow up thinking of this. And all of a sudden you count yourself out a lot of days because you think of all the mistakes and all the things you've done, and you don't believe that God will forgive you for those things. But you're forgiven before you even commit. When you accept that you have something bigger in your life. Like, I'm not here by osmosis. I don't think I've been preserved all these years just because. I believe I have a message. I believe I'm a beacon of hope. I believe I've been preserved, man, for a reason. And I thank God every day. I'm not a religious person. I'm not a guy that be in the church all the time, but I do believe that there's something bigger and better than all of us. And he's loving and caring, or she's loving and caring. And it's up to me to stay plugged in. There's one of the things that we talk about a lot too. For those of you that are listening, we have this thing called man, I lost my train of thought. The Good Samaritan law. We have to talk about that. We're because let's face it, the drugs are out there. And nowadays, the drugs that are out there are killing us fast. So you need to know that there is a thing called the Good Samaritan law that allows us to call the cops or call for help for our loved ones or somebody that you don't, and not worry about repercussions. You will not be charged with anything for trying to help somebody.
Yep.
Because listen, there was a couple of very close friends of mine that died because people just walked away. I told you I'm 62 years old, and believe me, there's so many friends and people that I knew that just died on the streets because people just walked past them because they didn't want to get involved. But this Good Samaritan law is one that you need to keep in your back pocket, because you never know. You never know with all these drugs, this fentanyl and all this other stuff that are coming down. You never know when you're going to walk past somebody and that person's going to look like he's dead or dying. And all you got to do is make a phone call and not worry about no repercussion.
Cisco, on that note, we have reached time for today. Thank you so much for coming. Do you have any last comments, questions, concerns, or?
Absolutely not. I just want to thank you for giving us this platform and allowing us to come out here and share with the loved ones. Everybody, enjoy the rest of your weekend and have a blessed day.
Thank you so much. Have a nice day, Cisco.